Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
Has someone ever challenged you to something that they didn't know who are an expert at? If so, how did it turn out for you, them? Mine's kind of dumb, but I think it still counts. At work I'm kind of the Google Sheets expert and I make lots of tools for different departments to use. Enter, new guy, who needed to collect, aggregate and display a bunch of data. My boss was like, send Wish a calendar invite so you can tell her what you want and she'll set it up for you. New guy was having none of that and insisted he was going to do it himself. Well, a week later, he finally has this shitty sheet that doesn't have half the information we need. And we have to have the numbers for the state by tomorrow. So my boss asks me to fix it and new guy is like, yeah, okay. That's not really possible. This is as good as it's going to get. 2 hours later, I send them both a fully functional and automated sheet that does everything we need. And we'll be able to use it indefinitely. Which means next time and every time the stupid state report is due, it will already be done. New guy was like, I would have added that in if I'd had more time. Quote. My uncle challenged Jack Nicklaus to a golf game in college. Without a clue, the humiliation burns him to this day. A buddy mine was at a concert in bad seats and started complaining about it via Twitter. All of a sudden the band starts reading some tweets and calls my friend up to sit on stage for a couple songs. They sit him at the piano and during the next song, they jokingly go, okay, piano solo. The crowd laughs for a second but then my buddy just starts jamming out as he plays piano in his band. Talk about dream moment, getting to play with your favorite band. While I'd never claim I was an expert, I used to be pretty damn good at pool. My aunt and uncle had a pool table downstairs and my parents for a variety of reasons would go over regularly and spend all day there. There was nothing else for us, me and my brother, to do, so we just played pool all day for years. Eventually we got bored and saw that he had a book on trick shots, so we started doing that for fun. Never really mastered them, but they made for really good practice in understanding how to get the ball to do what you want. So anyway, for my buddy's 20th birthday he wanted to go to a pool hall and invited a ton of people. Then he told it was going to be a tournament. Drinks for individual games, and a 50-50 type of deal for the winner. He gets half regardless because it was his birthday. Insisted I come and I caved eventually. Get there. First game, they break. And that was the only shot they got. Rest of mine were pretty similar. At the end I just looked at him. Told you not to invite me. Found out after that a bunch of them had never even played pool before. Felt pretty bad, so I took the money and bought everyone drinks with it. Not me but my brother and best friend. We were in Baltimore for a baseball weekend in 2009 and hanging out at a bar across from Camden Yards. They had a Silver Strike bowling video game. At our local bar back in Boston we had one as well. I'm decent at the game but my brother and buddy were fucking amazing at this game. Bowling 300 games and whatnot. So two dudes are playing this game and drinking. We ask them if we can play when they're done. They ask if we want to play them. We said sure. My brother and buddy destroy these guys. Like it wasn't even close. These dudes said it was a fluke and they wanted a rematch, but this time for a round of beers. Again, Annihilation City, but they kept wanting to play. To eventually win a game. No lie, after 13 rounds of beers they finally gave up. They were great guys. We saw them the next day at the same bar and they walked up to us with beers in hand already and said, rematch. To this day we still hang out with them whenever we go to Baltimore. And to this day, they have never won. Edit for details, the guys were buying 2 beers each time they lost a game to the 2 guys they lost to. For my brother and friend. The beers were Natty Boh, which is Baltimore's cheap gross awesome beer. I can't remember the price. But they were under $2 a piece back then. They would buy the beers and they'd just start piling up on the table next to the machine, so we were all just drinking them. I'd say around 25 to 30 beers between the 5 of us in 4 or 5 hours. Tab was probably 60-ish bucks for beers, but we were there all night getting wings and a million apps, so we all just paid the tab anyways. Not a physical challenge, but I sell building materials for a living, think Home Depot, but for guys that build skyscrapers and stadiums. There has been many occasions where an old man with zero construction knowledge tries to lecture me on what I do for a living. When working as a teacher, I beat a lot of students in Pokémon battles. 'Cause they didn't think of me being like 15 years ahead of them in fighting experience. Noobs. This is how I trounce my younger siblings at Smash Bros. Every game really. Fucking teenagers. Think they're hot shit. No way their old ass big bro is gonna beat them this time. I have been playing since you were a baby. Oh, you got a new game. Cool. I played something a lot like it on a PlayStation with potato graphics. Get wrecked. A neighbor on my block in Brooklyn challenged me to a pizza bake-off. I recently catered pizza for my daughter's school and word got around the neighborhood my pizza was pretty darn good. My first thought was, this guy is a Brooklyn native. My pizza will be shite compared to his. But there was something about him bragging that I couldn't resist the challenge. He talked up how pizza was in his blood. How his dad ran the pizza place around the corner years ago. I remained silent and let my skills answer for themselves. I got a buddy to let us use one of Baker's Pride ovens at his restaurant. We even had total strangers try our pizzas. Every last person chose my pizza over his. I never mentioned to him that I've worked in pizza places almost every day for the last 30 years. I never mentioned that when I'm not working at a pizza place I'm making pizzas at home at least once every 2 days. I never mentioned that at 9 years old I knew that I wanted to be a pizza man. Here I am 45 and getting ready to start my own pizza business. Not really a "you got owned" moment, but in college my buddies and I always got the new fighting game when it came out and would put in a couple hundred hours or so on it, basically dicking around with it in online or practice mode before dropping it. But during that time we'd have fight nights couple times a week where we'd all get together at someone's place and duke it out. Loser switches controllers. It's not like I never won, but I was always just middle of the pack, and after 2 years of this literally no one would consider me to be some fighting game wizard, quite the opposite if anything. Then, for the first time ever, the group decided to pick up a 3D fighter instead of a 2D one, Soul Calibur 3 I think. And unknown to anyone in our playgroup I'd grinded Soul Calibur I for 10 hours a day. Every day, for 3 to 4 years. Against 5 people who were doing the same and were just as good as me. It honestly wasn't even fun. After the first half hour they were playing with 200% health while I was playing with 50%. Picking random character select. And I still hadn't passed the controller once. And thus it was tacitly agreed that we would all play 2D fighters from then on. My landlord tried blaming me for damage to the kitchen cabinets but didn't know that I am in construction and am very familiar with home building codes. They placed the cabinets too close to the stove and the glue that held the laminate had melted. When I was around 10 there was an old man with Alzheimer's in my neighborhood who would often approach my friends and I. He would ask us questions that we obviously didn't know the answer to, such as, what's the square root of 2? Which was one of his favorites. One day I decided I'd memorize the square root of 2 to 20 digits. Sure enough, he did ask me the question again and I was totally prepared. He was extremely impressed and of course he forgot who I was, so would continue to ask over and over again. I dated a guy in college who was incredibly book smart, working on his master's with the intention to pursue a PhD. I was doing the good ol' 5-year plan for college and quite content with my level of brain power compared to his. What he underestimated was my fondness for word games. Especially Scrabble. I like to think I'm quite good. Well, in the 3 years we dated, we only played Scrabble once and I beat the shit out of him. The icing on the cake was when I got a 50+ word score for playing one letter. He literally wiped all the letters off the board and had a mini hissy fit. Claiming that I cheated, I got out my trusty Scrabble dictionary and proved his loss. I was out skating in my driveway one day practicing a difficult trick for me over a 6-inch tall board. I had it on its side trying to land the trick from only 6 inches in height and I kept screwing it up for a good hour. I was trying to land a 360 heel flip and I always had trouble with that trick cause I skate goofy to begin with. My neighbor must have been watching because he comes out, grabs the board I'm jumping over and turns it on its side so now it's 2 feet tall. He pulls $100 bill out of his wallet and says, "If you can jump over the board and land it, then I'll give this to you." What he didn't know is that I was shitty at the trick I was practicing. But among my skater friends, I was known for my ridiculous ollie height. I'm not very tall, but I could put my knees to my chest in a jump and clear 30 inches regularly. So I took the bet, backed way off, took a running start, cleared the board, stuck the landing and came to a screeching sideways stop about 6 inches from him. He knew he got played and just laughed while he gave me the money. Good thing too, cause I needed a new deck right then pretty badly. Camped out for tickets to the Phantom Menace. Guy in a group behind me challenged everyone to Star Wars Trivial Pursuit for money. It got to my first turn and I ran the board and won without anyone else getting to go. I felt bad so I didn't even take his money. He still accused me of having memorized the cards to cheat. Nope. Just seen the original trilogy dozens of times all my life. I once went to a museum with my sister and her friend, who I hadn't met before. We got to the Greek art bit and her friend started telling me how she was super into Greek myth. And I thought that was cool. Because I was, unbeknownst to her, doing a master's in it at the time and also keeping a blog of myth retellings, which was pretty popular, and it was a relief to have something in common with this stranger. She then got weirdly haughty and told me she probably knew more myths than I did. So, being polite, I didn't challenge her on it and just asked her to tell me her favorite, so that we could have a conversation about it. She proceeded to tell me the myth of Daedalus and the Minotaur. I asked her how she'd heard of that one. Because it's fairly obscure, she told me she'd read it on a viral blog post on a blog about mythology. It was my blog. In junior high I got challenged at floor hockey by this douche who was good at literally every sport. He was a massive dick and would make fun of me. I sucked at most sports and was not particularly fast. But I played ice hockey growing up and would spend hours on our local basketball court practicing my stick handling. I dusted his ass. I scored a natural hat trick on him. He shut up after that and stopped making fun of me. Chess. I'm a chess master. I think when people hear that they're like, oh, he's really good at chess. But what it means is that I've played in international tournaments and beaten other masters and some governing body has given me a title. Anyway, I get challenged a lot by friends who think they're pretty good. What they don't realize is that your average pretty good player is getting destroyed by your average tournament player. And your average tournament player is getting destroyed by a master. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you next time.